Footsteps in the attic, keys that vanish without explanation, strange footprints in the snow, leading toward a farmhouse, but never leaving, and then silence. Days later, 6 people were found brutally murdered inside that very home. But the most chilling part? After the killings, the murderer stayed, feeding the animals, cooking meals, even lighting fires in the chimney, living among the corpses. This is not fiction. This is the terrifying true mystery of the Hinterkaifeck murders. Hinterkaifeck was a lonely farmstead deep in Bavaria, Germany. Surrounded by woods and fields, it stood nearly half a mile from the nearest road, and even farther from neighbours. In 1922, it was home to Andreas Gruber, 63, and his wife, Cecilia, 72. Their widowed daughter, Victoria, 35, lived with them, along with her children, little Cecilia, age 7, and Josef, only 2 years old. The family had help from a maid, but weeks before the crime, the maid suddenly quit, claiming the house was haunted. A new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived on March 31st. By nightfall, she would be dead. In the days before the murders, unsettling things happened. Andreas discovered a single set of footprints in the snow. They led from the forest to the farmhouse, but not back. Inside, footsteps echoed from the attic late at night. A key to the front door mysteriously disappeared, and a newspaper that no one in the family subscribed to appeared on the porch. Andreas confided in neighbours, saying something felt wrong, but he didn't contact the police. Perhaps he believed he was imagining things, or perhaps he wanted to avoid attention. What the Grubers didn't know was that their home was being watched. On the evening of March 31st, the killer struck. One by one, the family members were drawn into the barn. Some believe the murderer imitated a cry for help. Others think each family member went searching for the last, not realizing they were walking into a trap. Andreas, his wife Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia were killed with a mattock, a heavy pickaxe-like tool. Their skulls were crushed with horrifying force, and their bodies hidden under hay. Back inside the farmhouse, Maria, the new maid, was murdered in her room, and 2-year-old Joseph was bludgeoned in his crib. 6 people, 3 generations of one family, wiped out in a single night. But the horror did not end there. For the next several days, neighbours saw smoke rising from the chimney. Food was cooked in the kitchen. The cows were milked, the stables cleaned, and the farm animals fed. The killer had not only murdered the Gruber family, he stayed, sleeping under their roof, walking their halls, carrying out their daily chores while their bodies lay hidden in the barn. When neighbours finally went inside on April 4th, what they found was unbearable. The family lay dead, partially covered with hay and sheets, as though the murderer wanted to hide his work, but not too carefully. The farmhouse was eerily quiet. Only the buzzing of flies broke the silence. The investigation began immediately, but it was chaotic. The murder weapon was found on the property, yet no fingerprints were taken. Police interviewed dozens of suspects, neighbours, farm workers, even Victoria's rumoured lover. Attention soon turned to Andreas himself. He had a reputation for cruelty and was accused of abusing his daughter Victoria. Could the murders have been an act of revenge, targeting the Grubers for their dark secrets? Others believed it was a stranger, a vagrant or soldier, drifting through the countryside after World War I. Some pointed to a man spotted wandering the woods nearby, and still others thought the killer had been hiding inside the house all along, perhaps in the attic, watching, waiting. Over time, theories grew. One claimed Victoria's secret relationship had provoked jealousy and rage. Another argued that a bitter neighbour, angry at Andreas, finally snapped. A more chilling theory suggested a stranger had secretly lived on the property for weeks, surviving unnoticed until the night he slaughtered the family. But no matter how far the investigation reached, no one was ever charged. The case baffled police for decades. Files were revisited in the 1950s, the 1970s, even as late as 2007, when forensic students tried re-examining what little evidence remained. Each time, investigators came away with the same haunting conclusion. The killer likely had ties to the family, but their identity would never be proven. Villagers whispered that Andreas's abusive past had finally caught up to him. Others were convinced Victoria's rumoured affair led to rage and bloodshed. Still, others insisted the footprints, the noises in the attic, the missing keys, pointed to an outsider who stalked the family like prey. But whoever it was, the killer seemed to know the farm intimately. He moved with confidence, stayed for days without fear, and carried out chores that only someone familiar with the property could manage. Even more disturbing, young Cecilia, the 7-year-old daughter, appeared to have survived her initial attack. When her body was found, she had clumps of her own hair in her hands, as though she had torn it out in an agony before dying hours later. That detail still horrifies researchers to this day. By 1923, the farmhouse was demolished. In its place, a small shrine was built to honor the dead. But the land itself seemed marked by tragedy, and locals spoke of curses and restless spirits. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Europe's most infamous unsolved crimes. Historians, true crime enthusiasts, and paranormal researchers all return to the case, hoping for answers. But the truth has slipped through every hand that has reached for it. More than a century later, the mystery endures. Was the killer a vengeful neighbor, a secret lover, a stranger hiding in the shadows, or someone the Grubers knew and trusted? The truth may never be uncovered. What do you think really happened that night on Hinterkaifeck Farm? Share your theory in the comments below. And if you want more chilling stories like this, subscribe to Truth Uncovered. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next mystery. Because sometimes the truth is far darker than fiction.